Hello everybody. So today I have a very short video, and a few of you, my subscribers, have asked me to run stocks through my spreadsheet. I've selected 3 stocks in the recommendation to run through the spreadsheet, and I'm just going to talk about them briefly. As usual, if you're used to the spreadsheet, you can look at the numbers. Just so you know, whenever you recommend a stock for me to look at, it's not that easy for me to go back to the comments, because whenever I reply to a comment, then I lose the comment and I have to go back through the videos, and now each video gets so many comments, it's tough for me to get back. So if you want me to look at a stock, you have a recommendation for the channel, drop it in this video. And if you drop it in this video, I will just go back to this video next time I do a spreadsheet like this, and I'll include your stock. It will be a convenient way for me to go back. So if you want me to look at a stock, go back to this video, post it in this video, and I'll put it in the spreadsheet next time, hopefully next week. So anyways, 3 stocks that I've gathered. I've taken notes from your comments. So the first one is called Miniso. So, and you notice Li Auto and Miniso, these 2 stocks are Chinese companies. So this comes with the usual caveat, would you ever invest in a Chinese company? I personally don't have a problem doing it. I know many people would never do that, so keep that in mind. But Miniso, what is Miniso? Well, Miniso is more of an international company. Really, they're in more than 100 countries. They remind me a lot of these Japanese stores who sell these quote-unquote useless stuff. I mean, I don't really know if it's useless, but it's not a shop. It's not the type of store I shop at. But this is an example of a type of products they make, and this is their slogan, right? Their motto is "Life is for fun." The translation may not be the best. I'm not sure it means the same way in Chinese. But anyways, I guess is just silly high margin physical products, and these physical products are usually sold in stores like this. And these are these tiny stores that you can find in many different countries around the world. This is an example of a store like this, and you just go in, and I guess you just buy a bunch of cheap stuff. It's kind of a Chinese Dollar General, I suppose. I guess I could put it like that, or like a form of a TJ Maxx, I guess. Anyways, I don't really know. I don't shop there. The point is, the stock is cheap, but it's just okay. If you ask me, at a 0.32, there's a lot of much more interesting companies, in my view, that are based in the US, where you don't have these issues with the Chinese compliance and the Chinese accounting, and that especially grow faster at 19% growth. I mean, this is excellent growth for a physical retail store type business. This is very good, 19%. But we don't have to invest in a physical retail store, right? I mean, this is not something I have to invest in. There's plenty of businesses that are doing really well in the online realm. And of course, not all businesses are created equal. Some businesses are going to be much more profitable than others. And this is obviously not something I want to be investing in, especially as it competes. For example, in my view, if I look at these products, I think about Pinduoduo's Temu. And I'm like, this probably competes quite a bit with Temu. Can I order a fancy water bottle, or like a rabbit toilet brush, whatever that is? Can I order that on Temu? I can probably order that on Temu for dirt cheap and get the World Trade Organization advantageous fare of shipping from China to the US to sponsor my shipping, and I get this for free. I just have to wait a few weeks. But anyways, the company has its merits, but as far as the valuation and as far as the sector, this is not something I would be interested in, respectfully. Good margins, though. Good margin. I mean, yeah, selling these items are profitable. Now, a company that impressed me much more is Li Auto, and this is a company that I forgot to include in my spreadsheet. If you go back 4 videos ago, I compared all of the auto companies, and I forgot Li Auto, and I forgot the Chinese automakers, and BYD came out with really good numbers in my spreadsheet. Now, this subscriber, thank you for suggesting this, because you found something better than BYD, and it is Li Auto. It is really excellent. Now, that valuation is dirt cheap at a 0.08, but that number will depend on how much faith how much faith you put into the 83% revenue growth that analysts have predicted for this stock. Analysts are saying this stock will grow 83% over the next 12 months. How much faith do you put into that number? I mean, regardless, it's still dirt cheap. I mean, if you think Tesla is cheap, these other automakers were essentially priced for bankruptcy compared to Tesla, relative to Tesla. Obviously, the case of Li Auto, I'm not saying it will happen. I don't think it will happen. They're EBITDA margin profitable. This is very good at the 7%. But if they grow at 83% and you add 7, you get a rule of 40 number at 90, which is very impressive, very outstanding. And actually, after I'm done recording this video, I found a few reviews of their vehicles from this European YouTuber located in China, who reviews Chinese cars. And I've started looking a little bit at the review, and it's pretty darn good. I mean, it is pretty darn good. Now, of course, I don't consider this to be a threat to Tesla, but when I think about all of the legacy automakers, I'm very concerned when I think about, say, a lot of the German automakers. I mean, this concerns me quite a bit because these are very, very nice vehicles, and even though the U.S. is obviously with USMCA and with some of the regulation, it's tough to get into the U.S. without having a plant either in Mexico, Canada, or the United States, right? Because of tariffs. In Europe, a lot of the Chinese leadership is pushing Europe to approve and accept Chinese vehicles. Otherwise, they're saying, that's what the Chinese are saying right now. If you follow this field, they're saying, oh, well, if you don't let our cars in Europe, well, we're not going to let your wines or your cognac or whatever, we're not going to let it go to China. We're not going to let it in China. And of course, Europe, it's major agricultural luxury type export that may see tariffs on them if they don't agree to the Chinese coming to Europe. So I'm also concerned for Europe. I think Europe will see a lot of Chinese automakers, much more than the US. The US may at some point, and we know that BYD might come to the US after the election in 2025. They're already building a plant in Mexico, but I think it's much more imminent in Europe, and that means competition, as fierce competition in China. Tesla has fierce competition in China in the form of BYD and Li Auto and the other brands, but Tesla might have fierce competition in Europe too, and this is quite interesting. And by the way, these are not concepts. These vehicles are getting sold. This is some real revenue right there at 17.5 billion. This is some real money, right? It's profitable, gross margin profitable, EBITDA profitable, and this is roughly in line with Tesla, which is also very impressive. So Li Auto, I'm impressed. If only Tesla was $300 right now, I would have the motivation to do a deep dive. But with Tesla at $169, I don't have the motivation to do a deep dive because I have an obvious buy every day as long as Tesla is cheap. But very impressed by Li Auto. And of course, if you dislike Chinese companies, of course, you're never going to look at. Now, the third company, which I found somewhat interesting, is Perion. So I'm not sure I told that on the channel, but I used to own companies in the digital advertising space. I used to own PubMatic and the Trade Desk, but I sold these two companies for better opportunities, and I had a little bit of gains on the Trade Desk, but I didn't have any actual losses on PubMatic, and it turned out okay. So I exited that space because I'm not an insider of the space, but I just looked at Perion's number, and Perion's number, if you ask me, they are pretty good numbers on advertising. They're growing, for example, about twice as fast as a PubMatic. Now, of course, I realize this is not necessarily the same business. Digital advertising is a very broad type of business to say, and I have a position in Google for my quote-unquote savings account type stocks. But Perion, interesting growth numbers at 15%, and the gross margin is 37%, and it would be in the first quartile of my spreadsheet at a 0.15, and it's a company that's profitable already at a 20% EBITDA margin. So a rule of 40, we're not quite there, which is why I tend to not be interested in companies that don't break that rule of 40. We're not quite there at 35%, but it's still pretty good for the space. Anyways, but 15% is too low for me to enter a stock. To enter a stock, it is too low for me, 15%. So the only stock that I find very interesting in there is Li Auto, and of course, you would entirely dismiss this opinion from me if you don't want to invest in Chinese stock. I find it interesting, but for now, my focus is on Tesla. And keep in mind, I usually don't deploy money until I have invested at the very least tens of hours for a small position into a stock. You know what I mean? So this is not something I have a time to look at right now. But the numbers for Li Auto look very good, and the cars, it seems like they're onto something. So we'll see where that goes. And this is a market I don't know too much. But there's also another question that comes up when you talk about Chinese cars is subsidies. How many subsidies do they have? Do they have actually subsidies from the CCP or things like that, which is also something to keep in mind. So anyways, this was not investment advice. This is just entertainment. No financial advice. Please like, please subscribe. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day.